The lights in your home could go out at any moment, and it might not be because of a storm. If you think cyber warfare is just science fiction, you need to see what's really happening right now to America's power grid. Make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell because what I'm about to reveal could affect every single one of us. The hum of electricity flowing through power lines across America has become the heartbeat of our civilization, so constant and reliable that we barely notice it anymore. Yet beneath this facade of normalcy, a silent war is being waged in the digital shadows where foreign adversaries probe and test the very systems that keep our nation running. Russian hackers didn't just wake up one morning and decide to target American infrastructure. This is a calculated strategy that began years ago, perfected through attacks on other nations, most notably the devastating 2015 assault on Ukraine's power grid that left 230,000 people without electricity for hours after 60 substations were knocked offline. The attack wasn't just about turning off lights. It was a demonstration of capability, a warning shot that echoed through the halls of power in Washington, D.C. The methodology behind these attacks is frighteningly sophisticated. Russian operatives don't assault the grid directly, instead, they target the vendors and suppliers that utilities trust, infiltrating websites that power company employees visit regularly, many of which lack proper cybersecurity measures. Once inside these systems, they steal credentials and slowly work their way into the actual infrastructure networks, like a digital infection spreading through the bloodstream of American power. What makes these attacks particularly terrifying is their patience and precision. Unlike Hollywood depictions of instant system crashes, real cyber attacks unfold over months, sometimes years, with hackers establishing multiple entry points, studying system operations, and positioning themselves for maximum impact when the time comes to strike. The architecture of America's electrical grid wasn't designed with cyber warfare in mind. Built decades ago when the internet was barely a concept, our power infrastructure operates on systems that were never meant to face the sophisticated digital threats of today. The harsh reality is that there is no way to completely protect the grid, and regulation at both state and federal levels makes it difficult for utilities and regulators to work together effectively. Consider the interconnected nature of modern electrical systems. When you flip a light switch in New York, that electricity might be generated hundreds of miles away, traveling through a complex web of transmission lines, substations, and control systems. Each connection point represents a potential vulnerability, a door that hackers could potentially force open. The control systems that manage this vast network, known as SCADA systems, were originally designed as isolated networks. But as utilities sought greater efficiency and remote monitoring capabilities, many of these systems became connected to the internet, creating bridges that skilled hackers can exploit to move from IT networks into operational technology systems. The electricity grid represents an attractive target for cyber attacks from US adversaries like China and Russia, as well as individual bad actors, because reliable electricity is essential to modern life and vital to our nation's economy and security. All 16 sectors of the US economy deemed to make up the nation's critical infrastructure rely on electricity. The technical challenge of launching a successful grid attack is immense, but not impossible. Carrying out a cyber attack that successfully disrupts grid operations would be extremely difficult, but require months of planning. However, the precedent has already been set, and the capabilities demonstrated in Ukraine prove that such attacks are within the realm of possibility. What keeps cybersecurity experts awake at night is the knowledge that attackers need to succeed only once, while defenders must be successful every single time. The mathematical odds favor the attackers, especially when they have the resources of nation-states behind them and the luxury of time to plan and execute their operations. The power grid is experiencing heightened threats from foreign adversaries and domestic extremist groups, with nations and criminal groups posing the most significant cyber threats to U.S. critical infrastructure, according to the Director of National Intelligence's 2022 Annual Threat Assessment. These threat actors are becoming increasingly capable of attacking the grid with each passing year. The recent concerns have intensified dramatically. Reports from 2025 indicate that a blackout affecting several countries simultaneously has raised suspicions of a coordinated cyber attack rather than a system glitch, with indicators of compromise suggesting it may have been caused by malicious actors targeting energy infrastructure, proving that cyber defenses are now national defenses. Imagine waking up tomorrow morning and your coffee maker won't work. Your phone is dead because the charging station went dark overnight. You flip the light switch, but nothing happens. You check your neighbors, and their houses are dark too. The traffic lights are out, creating chaos on the roads. Gas stations can't pump fuel because their electronic systems are down. This scenario isn't just an inconvenience, it's a catastrophic failure cascade that could bring American society to its knees within hours. Hospitals would switch to backup generators, but those systems aren't designed to run indefinitely. Water treatment plants would shut down, potentially contaminating the water supply for millions of people. Food in refrigerators and freezers would spoil, creating both health hazards and supply shortages. The economic impact would be staggering. Financial markets rely entirely on electronic systems that require constant power. ATMs would stop working, credit card systems would fail, and banking networks would go offline. In our increasingly cashless society, many people would find themselves unable to purchase basic necessities even if stores could somehow continue operating. The psychological impact might be even more devastating than the physical consequences. Modern Americans have grown up with the assumption of constant electricity. Remove that foundation and panic sets in quickly. Social media platforms would go dark, eliminating the communication channels that people rely on for information and connection during emergencies. Law enforcement and emergency services would be severely hampered. While they have backup communication systems, these networks aren't designed to handle the massive surge in calls and incidents that would follow a grid failure. Hospitals would be overwhelmed with patients from accidents caused by failed traffic control systems, people trapped in elevators, and those dependent on electric medical devices. The military implications are equally serious. Russia could launch a devastating attack on the US power grid, and the country has already inflicted malware on America in the past, and might not be particularly concerned about the ramifications. Military bases and defense installations have backup power systems, but a coordinated attack on the civilian grid could still significantly impact defense capabilities and national security operations. Agricultural systems would face immediate challenges. Modern farming relies heavily on electronic systems for everything from milking cows to processing food. Livestock could die without proper ventilation and temperature control systems. Food processing plants would shut down, creating supply chain disruptions that could last for weeks even after power is restored. The ripple effects would extend far beyond American borders. Global financial markets would react with panic, potentially triggering worldwide economic instability. Supply chains that depend on American production and logistics would face massive disruptions, affecting everything from manufacturing to retail operations around the world. Recovery from such an attack wouldn't be a simple matter of flipping switches back on. When a large part of the power grid goes down, leaving the population in the dark and critical facilities like hospitals growing desperate, teams of utility operators and cybersecurity experts scramble to get the grid back up while hackers try to keep it down. The restoration process could take weeks or even months, especially if attackers had damaged physical equipment or installed persistent malware. Cybersecurity experts are highlighting the risk of EMPs and cyber threats to US infrastructure, emphasizing the need for improved defenses against modern attacks. The government and private sector are finally beginning to take these threats seriously, but the response has been fragmented and often too little, too late. Federal agencies are working to establish better coordination between the Department of Homeland Security, the Department of Energy, and private utilities. New regulations are being developed to require better cybersecurity standards for critical infrastructure, but implementation is slow and uneven across different regions and companies. The private sector faces a challenging balancing act. Upgrading cybersecurity systems requires massive investments that directly impact company profits and consumer electricity rates. Many utility companies are regulated monopolies operating on tight margins, making it difficult to justify the costs of comprehensive security upgrades without regulatory mandates. Advanced threat detection systems are being deployed across the grid, using artificial intelligence and machine learning to identify suspicious network activity before it can cause damage. These systems can analyze millions of data points in real time, looking for patterns that might indicate an attempted intrusion or system compromise. The concept of air-gapping critical systems is gaining renewed attention. By physically isolating the most important control systems from internet connections, utilities can create barriers that are much harder for remote attackers to breach. However, this approach also limits operational efficiency and remote monitoring capabilities that modern utilities depend on. International cooperation is becoming increasingly important in defending against nation-state attacks. The United States is working with allies to share threat intelligence and coordinate responses to cyber attacks on critical infrastructure. These partnerships are essential because attackers often use infrastructure in multiple countries to launch their operations. Training and education programs are being expanded to ensure that utility workers understand cybersecurity threats and know how to respond appropriately. Many attacks succeed because employees unknowingly provide access through social engineering tactics or by falling victim to phishing emails and malicious websites. The development of rapid response teams that can quickly deploy to affected areas during a cyber attack is another critical component of the defense strategy. These teams combine cybersecurity expertise with knowledge of power grid operations, allowing them to work quickly to isolate compromised systems and restore service. Investment in research and development of next-generation grid technologies is accelerating. Smart grid systems with built-in cybersecurity features, quantum encryption for sensitive communications, and automated response systems that can detect and counter attacks without human intervention are all being explored. The race between attackers and defenders continues to intensify. As one expert recently warned, a cyber attack on power infrastructure is not science fiction. Attacks on power supplies are possible and have already caused disruptions in the past. The question isn't whether another attack will occur, but when and how severe it will be. The stakes couldn't be higher. America's power grid isn't just infrastructure, it's the foundation of our entire way of life. Every light switch, every computer, every hospital life support system depends on the continuous flow of electricity that we take for granted every single day. The time for complacency has passed. Citizens, government officials, and private companies must work together to address these vulnerabilities before they're exploited on a massive scale. The cost of prevention will always be less than the cost of recovery from a successful attack. This isn't a distant threat or a theoretical possibility. The capabilities exist, the targets are identified, and the motivation is clear. The only question remaining is whether America will take the necessary steps to protect itself before it's too late. The next time you flip a light switch, remember that simple action depends on one of the most complex and vulnerable systems ever created by human civilization. What happens next depends on the choices we make today. The threat is real, the time is now, and the consequences of inaction could change America forever. Stay informed, stay prepared, and make sure your voice is heard in demanding better protection for the infrastructure that keeps our nation running. Subscribe for